So I'm super excited about today's video because I think everybody just has to go through this, right? Especially if you're on your journey. You'll go through some type of stages, whether it be the exact same as what I'm about to share with you or just your own personal, it'll still be similar, right? No, I don't think anybody can have any spiritual awakening the same as anybody else's, but we all do go through the similar phases and the stages, right? Because it's essential to understand and to become who you are. But yeah, I first want to just talk about what even is a spiritual awakening, right? What defines a spiritual awakening? And for me, it really is just about becoming the highest version of yourself, right? Learning that you aren't these belief systems and all these programs that everybody has put onto you, right? Going within, lifting that veil and kind of unlearning everything and relearning so much just about you and the world and really going within, right? I think a lot of the part of spirituality is, it's a lot of lonely nights and it's a lot of going within because that's what it really is. And, you don't really understand that until the later stages, and we'll talk about that. But yeah, so that's really what I think a spiritual awakening is, right? And I think the first kind of stage is always that ignition, right? It's always that spark. How did this happen? What even got me into this, right? It'll usually be from a significant other. It'll be from a near-death experience. It'll be from a big moment in your life that really just shook things up for you and took you down a different path, right? And I think if you are coming across my video right now or you're just going through your own journey, it very much was meant to happen. I don't think everybody is meant to kind of wake up in this lifetime, and I don't really like to use that phrase, but just to kind of resonate with people, I don't think everybody is meant to become their highest version of their self or take this spiritual path in this life, because I think we all just are on different journeys, and I think that's just the duality of the world, right? But I do think more and more people are starting to shift and to understand what and who we really are, and I think it's amazing, right? Even from when I first started going through mine to now, you have triple the amount of people, and it's just going to continue because we're now in the age of Aquarius, and that's just the age of awakening. And right, the stars and the planets influence us, right? So whatever happens above happens below, as above, so below. And so, yeah, that's really what the first stage is, right? And it's not really even a stage because that just takes you into the rest of your journey, and it will be there forever, right? Because that's just how it started. And then that second stage is really, hold on, I wrote it down because I couldn't remember them all, like off the top of my head. But the second stage is really that awareness, right? You start to understand, okay, I really don't know what I've been told. You start to, I really call it the conspiracy phase, because a lot of times what happens is people don't like that phase, right? But it's super necessary and it's so beneficial. And I tell people this all the time because a lot of times without that stage, you don't understand the lies that's been told, and it's hard to go deeper, right, within religion or any of these things, or when you don't understand how it's all one big lie, right? So really going through conspiracies and understanding that so much has been falsified and done on purpose to really not let us reach our highest potential, right? These people very much know the esoteric knowledge, and they use this stuff in their own lives. So, right, all these programs and all these different things from the time we're young, by going to school as soon as we're 5, to just the way we live life, right? This rat race, it was all very much intentional. And at one point in time, we didn't live like this, right? We very much, people knew, especially in like ancient Egypt times and just even Greek times, right? Because it was all stolen from then. They really knew how we were supposed to live and how we are the microcosm of the macrocosm and all these things, right? So after that first stage of just kind of learning the conspiracies, it's important, and I think a lot of people get stuck in this stage, right? And that's why the elites or whoever, the 1%, allows this to happen and for conspiracies to be talked about so much, is because people can get stuck in this stage and you never go further, right? It isn't about, that stage is simply about teaching you what isn't true so that you can go deeper. It is never meant to stay in that phase and to have anger and to, oh my God, I hate the government and all these things, right? Which is what happens in that phase. But it very much is meant for you to get past that. And I think a lot of times people get stuck in that and then they turn back, right? They start to get fearful of, oh my gosh, what am I starting to learn? And they either stop right there or they go backwards and they just start going back on their old beliefs, right? Old religions, listening to what people say and all these things. So let's just talk about that phase for a bit, right? I call it the conspiracy and the egotistical phase. It's really where you start to learn, right, about the government and you think you know so much. I remember being in this phase and talking to my family and friends. Anytime I could open my mouth, I would come off as so egotistical. I would always try to prove that I know more than people, and I would always try to prove that 9/11 wasn't real and these things that people believe in, and like almost just trying to one up everybody, right? Like it was never like with good intentions in that beginning stages. It was always, how can I prove this, or and I think a lot of people go through this. And yeah, it very much, you can tell that people don't really take you, they're not really taking it in, right? Because of the way that you're coming off. And so that stage for me was, it was a couple of years. It was like 2 years where I just thought I knew so much and just about angel numbers and crystals, and you think that's all it is, and you think it's just about conspiracies, and really during that stage your heart is filled with so much rage still and so much anger, and that isn't what the awakening is about. And I had to learn that. And so really once you realize and you start to self-analyze, right, you I call it the next stage, which is the self-reflection stage. And also you can say it's the release of attachments. So both combined. This stage you can also call it a dark night of the soul moment, right? That's very much what that is. And I think you'll just have multiple of those in your awakening. But yeah, you kind of have to self-analyze and you kind of have to look within, and you're like, oh dang, I'm really not a nice person. I really don't have good intentions. I am coming from ego, right? And usually in this stage, you don't even know what ego is. And I very much didn't. I just started to learn about meditation and healing and how trauma can affect just your life. And so I really started to listen to more spiritual teachers, like just the basics, like Eckhart Tolle and Dolores Cannon, right? And honestly, listening to Dolores Cannon, she shifted my whole perspective, right? Because at this point in my life, I'm still angry, right, at my parents for certain things, but I'm cool with them. But on the inside, I still have these hurts, right? These things that I'm not talking about, but is very much in my nervous system and still inside of me. And not just that, like people in your life, everybody, right? You understand that it's so important for you to forgive. And when Dolores Cannon talked about how we come here before we come here, we really choose, right? And the reincarnation is learning to come here and do what you're supposed to do. And I call it the blueprint, right? So I'll kind of just go into that a little bit. I think, before we come here, I think we have a blueprint, right? Like just like a building. And I think it tells you who your mom's going to be, who your dad is going to be, and when these certain moments in your life are going to happen, right? When you're going to meet this person is going to spark this awakening for you. I call it contracts with people. And what I think is that in maybe our last life, we didn't quite get it right with people, right? Maybe you didn't forgive your parents and you need to come back in this life and you need to learn to be more Christ conscious, right? It's what it's all about. Learning to forgive, learning to love, learning that we're all one. And listening to her talk about that shifted my whole perspective, you guys. Like, it really took me from talking about I all the time and like looking at it from just my perspective to really, oh dang, what if me going through what I had to go through as a child was also teaching and helping my parents in a way, right? I never thought about that, and I always only thought about myself. And I think it's so huge, and it takes this whole different mindset to be able to do that. But when you do that, I honestly got so sad. I remember just thinking about how I treated my parents and like not really understanding that they're going through their own journey as well, right? And that they're gonna make mistakes just like anybody would. And nothing is ever personal, and I think we really need to understand that. Our parents have their own programmings built into them just like us. And so really choosing to analyze why you feel the way you do about certain people or situations, or why triggers even trigger you, or I forgot who it was that talked about rain, but it's recognizing that emotion that comes up, analyzing it, the A in the rain, analyzing it, investigating it, right? Why does this keep coming up? And realizing, oh, it was from when I was 7 and this moment happened in my life, right? That pretty much shaped who I am. And so really investigating. And then the end part of the rain is nurturing, right? So doing a meditation and really talking to your inner child and healing that part of you, right? Instead of, for me, when I was younger, anytime something happened, I would just always brush it off. Okay, I'm good, right? And you move on and you keep pushing, and you never really feel those emotions, and you don't really go through the motion of how to properly release that from, right, your nervous system and just your body. And so those things they literally are inside of us for forever, right? And this is why a lot of times people get sick and all these things start to happen to us. But yeah, that's really important, that rain, right? Recognizing, analyzing, investigating, and nurturing it. And doing that with every trigger that comes up, with every person in your life that you might have hate towards or didn't forgive, right? Really shifting your perspective from thinking about you to thinking about how it's helping everybody, right? Carl Jung talks about, Sigmund Freud too, but I just don't really like him as much. They talk about the ego, right? And Carl Jung believes that we all have a collective consciousness, which I also do believe. And so when you come from ego, you are going to think about all the things that constantly happen to I, right? You're going to be driving in traffic and you'll say, why did this person drive in front of me? Why did they just cut me off? And really, they don't even know you. They weren't thinking about you. They had their own situation going on and they needed to do whatever they needed to do, right? It's really about the bigger picture and how we're all helping each other. And until you realize that, I think life is a bit hard, especially when you're always in a victim mentality. And I think we have a huge victim mentality just problem in our world, and we almost idolize that, and we just give out medication to every person that says they have a mental health issue. And I think we really need to be not doing that and just going within and healing, right? Not covering it up and slapping a Band-Aid on it with prescription medication, and just really understanding why these things are coming up, and try to help your just inner self understand why these things happened, right? After this stage, right, it's the inner healing stage. I really believe you'll go through you'll just go on the seeking knowledge phase, right? You'll go through this phase where it gets dark. It's the dark night of the soul. It's the dark night of the soul, and you'll have multiple of those, but it really is a dark moment, right? Because you have to be alone, and it does take that for you to understand who you are and to really heal. And in this moment, it's when you do that work and you just start to, for me, it was diving deeper into the Bible and really connecting science with spirituality and philosophy, and doing so much research on my own about just history that may have not been told the right way, and diving into esoteric books. And in this phase, it can be scary, right? Because you have a lot of people and a lot of religious people that will start to tell you, like, what you're believing is not right, and it's the demons, and you have these things around you, and you need to repent, right? And Jesus is the way, and God is the way. And, I love the Bible. I really do. I just think that a lot of, religious teachings are teaching the same exact things, no matter what Bible you pick up and read, if you know how to read it metaphorically, like an allegory, as it should be read. But yeah, this is a very hard stage because, one, you just don't really know who you are. You're not the old you anymore. You're not really the new you. You're in between, and you're stuck, right? It's that purging. It's so much going on in this phase where you're losing your friends. You don't feel like you can talk to anybody. You feel weird. You're just, you're really like lonely. It is a lonely stage. You want connection, but you know that it isn't the right time, right? Because there's a perfect and right time for everything. And this is where those habits keep coming up, right? Codependency issues. For me, it was I said to myself, okay, I'm not going to talk to anybody. I don't want to have a boyfriend. It's the first time I really just looked at myself and was like, you need to like love yourself, right? Do the work. Spend 2 years. I didn't care how long it was going to take for me. I just knew that I wasn't going to talk to pretty much anybody until I really healed myself and loved myself. And, in this stage, when you start to just learn and you really start to do the work to understand things instead of just listening to what everybody else says and think you're so woke and you know so much, it really does bring this confidence about you. And for me, towards the end of this, right, because it was like 2 years that this happened, and I'm probably 26 at this time, right? And I'm not 26. I'm probably 24 at this time, right? And I'm 27 now. I'll be 28 in December. And like I said, the past 3 years really shifted my whole spiritual journey for me. One day I really just started to think to myself, like, oh, I love you. Like, right? I was like, you're so cool. My mindset, the way my mind was starting to shift and just be, I really was just falling in love with who I was. And it was so random. And I can't really explain how that happened. But it was just really me doing that work every day, healing, not talking to anybody, not trying to replace it with things and people, and really just feeling those moments. And it was super hard. And, it won't be the only dark night of the soul moment you'll go through. I went through multiple during my journey of just depressive, sad, almost like you just want to go back to your old life, right? And that's what Plato talks about a lot in his allegory of the cave. And it's just because when these things happen, you lose so many people. People aren't going to be able to understand you and even see with the eye that you see, aren't going to be able to even hear half the information that you say. So yeah, after this stage, right, we then move into the after this stage, I would say you go through another just phase of learning more things, right? You start to go deeper. For me, it was really understanding that all things are talking about the same thing: the sun, the moon, the zodiacs, how we're the microcosm of the macrocosm, understanding the deeper part of who we are, right? The true essence of who we are, and really starting to go from the conspiracy side of this stuff to the spirituality part, right? I think there's a huge difference. I think one is very egotistical and one is very inward and, more about trying to learn rather than trying to prove. And, so all of these stages are really just helping you, right? They're necessary and you have to go through all the stages, right? I talk about how the conspiracy stage is important. The purging stage is important. The part of you learning who you are and forgiving your parents is so important, right? Needing to heal your inner child is so important, right? And then the next stage, which is the stage that I'm really in my life right now, is you really learn who you are and you start to understand what you came here for. I feel like when you do that work, and it took me a long time to understand that, but so I started to get into philosophy and psychology and just the esoteric knowledge, right? And I started to be able to tie things together that just resonated with me and made sense, and listening to different teachers. And, I really don't listen to a lot of mainstream spiritual people because I just have this discernment, and I think that certain people just resonate with me and certain people don't. So yeah, I started to just live authentically, right? And that's what this phase is. And it's the highest level of vibration that you can be. It's higher than love, which makes so much sense of why people go viral just making a video and they're just being themselves, right? And you'll spend 2 hours and you don't get any likes because, right, you weren't being authentic. It's just easier to just be authentic and who you are. And in this phase, you start to really not care what anybody thinks anymore, right? So no longer did I care about hiding who I was or what I had to say or my opinions or my beliefs on the Bible, right? Because it's so different than most. not caring about speaking on things that happen in the world and old history, because you do that work and you start to really, really do the work to where you're confident in what you say, and you don't really get triggered anymore by somebody not understanding you because you know that you've done that work and they haven't, right? So it's easy to argue with somebody in the beginning and be like so mad and so full of rage, but once you get far enough, you just understand that not everybody is meant to wake up, and when you've put in the work and you have an understanding of just everything, you really don't get triggered that much anymore. And you're kind of just like, okay, you can have your own opinion and I have mine, right? Because we're just on different journeys. And for me, before I was trying to reach everybody. I was like, who can I tell? And now I'm just in a phase where I don't want to reach all these people, right, that I'm not meant to reach. I simply just want the universe to align me with the people that are on the same path as me, align me with the people that are resonating with me and that are on the same frequency with me. I don't want to reach a whole crowd that has no idea what I'm talking about and to falsely just be liking me for no reason. I truly only want to be around people and want to attract people into my life that are on the same frequency, on the same path, going through the same things, right? I really believe that my journey here and what I'm meant to do is to use my voice and to just talk about the things that I learn, right? And talk about spiritual awakening and just how to overcome certain things. And so when you live in that authenticity, it's such a beautiful stage. And there's definitely hard moments, right? I have been addicted to smoking weed for 10 years and I'm only on my third day being sober right now. And so you'll always have moments where you're needing to self-analyze and fix yourself, right? It's always about trying to be better and understanding that we have both dark and light about us, right? And you get to choose. You're the one who gets to choose which one you step in, right? Are you going to step in the dark side today or are you going to step in the light side today? And for me, I want to be able to always be authentic, but transmute that, right? Because that is who I am. I don't want to be angry, right? So when people are like, be authentic, me transmuting that and changing from this aggression and this is me being authentic. I don't want to look at a situation negatively. I want to understand why everything happens. I want to be able to alchemize and transmute everything that I go through in life, right? Same thing with when you're going through that phase of forgiving your parents and stuff like that. It's that alchemy. It's transmuting it. It's looking at it from a different perspective, right? Perspective is the biggest thing we have. And you can always learn and shift and choose to look at something one way or another. And for me, I just refuse to look at anything as negative. Like nothing I've gone through in my life, and I've gone through a lot of things that most people wouldn't be able to forgive. Just a lot of hurt. And, I'm so grateful for it, especially because I think we choose everything before we come here. And I get that that's really hard to understand. But I do truly think we do, right? And people are always like, well, how does bad happen in this world? It's duality. We cannot have good without bad, right? You cannot have a shadow if you don't have a light that will give off a shadow. You can't. It's just duality, black, white, yin, yang, bad, good, evil, good, whatever you want to say. It's that duality, and bad will always happen to help us understand it, to help us grow and to help us learn, right? To evolve. Without it, we would just stay stagnant. We would never evolve consciously. And I think we very much are meant to reach Christ consciousness. And I think that's what the story of Jesus is talking about, right? How to get off the wheel of karma, showing you how to reach Christ consciousness. And it's also a metaphor for the sun going through the zodiacs, right? But that's just another day for that video. But understanding, and really shifting that perspective is what this phase is all about, and being authentic and not caring what anybody else thinks. It's a beautiful stage. I love it. It's very hard, and I think so many people in this world are not authentic. So many people are working a job they don't want to do. So many people are with somebody they don't want to be with, and I find it sad, and I think majority of the world is sad and not truly happy, and that makes me, right, like sick to my stomach, because I really don't think we have to live like that. And when people understand that they have free will, and to get rid of that programming, you don't have to do anything, right? If you want to wake up tomorrow and start a podcast, the only person that's going to stop you is your mindset and your programming, right? My own programming stopped me for forever. I was supposed to start my podcast 2 years ago, And I talked about it before. Thank God I didn't. And the universe always has a plan that we don't understand. But I would have been talking on things that I really didn't know about. And I'm in a place now where I'm, just more knowledgeable, and I have a better understanding of everything. And I think that I can use my voice in a much better way than I would have been able to before. So really just embrace every moment, right? Don't try to skip the stages that you have to go through. Don't try to live in somebody else's journey. Don't try to live in somebody else's footsteps. Especially with all these spiritual teachers and people guiding and talking. Take that stuff with a grain of salt. Take it in, but don't identify with that, right? Go through your own journey. Look at your own life. Life is the best teacher. You don't always have to go outsource and to listen to all these things and to read. Sometimes you really just need to go within and to experience and analyze, right? A lot of times when we can get advice from people, they tell you what you want to hear. And a lot of times we do need to stop being victim, right? Understand that your reality is created by your thoughts and your inner world. And when you do that, it really changes your whole entire life, and you start to understand the science, the philosophy, what everybody was talking about, right? What these alchemists were talking about back in the day. And you can start to understand all these stories, Greek mythology, religion, what it's all talking about how we're all one. And, it takes you into connecting with your higher conscious. And I don't think the spiritual journey ever stops. So I have no idea what stages come after this, right? Because I'm still in mine as well. But I do know that I believe that this stage and the just becoming your highest version of yourself, right, consciously just more evolved, it will just be beneficial for the rest of your journey. Because here on out, I think that you just start to follow your own dreams and use everything that you've learned, right? Forgiveness, love, and you just start to move and really just start to take on life with a different perspective, right? And I think you understand that you can do anything and you have free will. And even when those moments in life happen where we don't have free will, right? Because I think it's a mixture. I think just like with the blueprint, there's certain moments in your life where something has to happen and it was already going to happen to help you learn, and it was a lesson needed to be learned. So those are kind of the stages I think we all go through, right? And I'm not here to tell you that's exactly what you're going to go through, but just to give a little, rundown of kind of how the awakening goes in the journey, right? And everybody's is going to be different, and I wish everybody, so much love on their journey, because it's super hard. And I just want to say, don't give up and don't go backwards, because I know that it's so easy and it's so, right, ignorance is bliss, and it's so easy to want to just go back to your old life and have all your old friends and to just be this happy person that you thought you were. But I promise you, when you do the work and you get through these stages and you're in that authenticity stage and you're in that just higher consciousness stage, it really, really is beautiful on the other side. And it's almost like quantum jumping, right? You really just, when you're looking at the world and you're even just outside looking at a tree, you no longer, it's a whole nother perspective, right? Good luck to everybody, sending all my love to everybody on their journey. And just remember, this journey was meant for you and you're on it for a reason. Don't be fearful of it. Never be fearful of anything. Embrace every moment. Go through the moments. Feel every moment you need to. Really, really use your discernment, right? Don't just listen and jump on the bandwagon of what everybody has to say about spirituality, and just experience it, right? The best teacher of life is experience. And I think that when we're scared to experience and do things in life, we don't really learn the lessons and we miss out on so much. So that's really what today's video is about. I hope to see you guys next week. I'm going to try to tackle into some CIA documents and kind of have like a week where I do an episode on different experiments, right? Because I think a lot of them are interesting and a lot of them talk about who we are. So I look forward to doing that next week. And thank you all if you stayed and watched this long. Make sure to subscribe, right? Give me some followers. And like the video. If you feel like commenting, anything, I will be just so happy. I literally get so happy if I see a like. I'm like, Oh my gosh, who was it? Like, so, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next week.